may get the information a little sooner, but again, it's emotional. So we want to help answer these questions for folks, answer them for ourselves. It helps us to put ourselves in that driver's seat, that we're doing something proactive and not just waiting for it to happen to us. So Daryl Conner talks about resilience and how do we manage change successfully is based on our resilience. This is another way. The more resilient you are, helps put you in that driver's seat because you're going to bounce back a little more quickly. Another definition is, I don't have it written down here, but there is one that says with how much you can go through change with minimal dysfunctionality. I was not going to say things aren't going to be dysfunctional for a while, but how do you minimize that? And it's also important too, because if there's all of this angst going on and all of this internal churn, we're in that neutral zone and we're not able to get in that driver's seat either individually or collectively, where's our focus on the customer? And you find out when organizations are going through a lot of change, they're so focused internally that they forget about their customer, and it's a great opportunity for competition to come scoop them up, right? So what are some characteristics of, when somebody's resilient, what are some of the characteristics that show that they're resilient? Pardon me?
Flexible.
Flexible, yeah. What else?
Positive.
Positive, that's a big driver.
Cooperative.
Mm-hmm. What did you say?
Adaptive.
Adapting, yeah. Okay, so Daryl Conner breaks it into 5. Organized, and how does being organized help you move through change?
Because that's something to control.
Great, that's something you can control, and I know what's happening, and I have all the tactical stuff down, and I'm doing all of that. Because when you're not organized, that can just make you feel more out of control. Flexible, somebody said flexible, okay? Doesn't matter to me if I use this system or that system, as long as I get the same results sometimes. But I'm also flexible to ideas. I'm also flexible to learning something new. Proactive, that's what we're talking about, getting in the driver's seat. So how do I get ahead of this? How do I get on board? How do I get engaged? And when I'm focused, how does that help?
Because you're not as distracted with the things that you cannot control.
Yes,
You're focused on what you can do, the task at hand.
that's right, that's right. And all that noise out there, you're muted, right? Because you are laser focused on what you can do. And positive, that energy, I don't know if any of you have ever gone through a change with a leader who wasn't a real positive, enthusiastic person, but that's painful, right? I mean, can you imagine going into a merger or into a major change and somebody saying to you, well, this is going to be miserable, but at least we have a job, so just hang tough, we'll see where it goes, right? You're not going to feel real good about that. But if somebody says, hey, let's be open, let's think about the opportunities that this presents for us. This could be better. You could end up in a much better spot. We don't know, but it's a journey. So we'll go through it together. We're going to hang tough, and we're talented, skilled people, and we're going to have great opportunities, and we can contribute, and we'll make this happen. Okay, gives you a little bit of energy, gives you a little bit of hope, right? So it's not that positive. It's just so important as you work through a change. So I'm going to give you just a couple minutes and pick a partner, and and I want you to share with each other, what is your strength? Out of these 5 characteristics, what is your strength, and how has that strength helped you in times of change? So just have a minute or so to share yours, and then let the other person share theirs. Any questions on that? So what is your strength out of those 5, and how has it helped you move through change?
What did you
So if you're talking with someone who their strength is one of your challenges, you just met a good new buddy to call on during times of change, right? You can, that's another thing you can do, but work with each other, and how do you get through these things?
Kathy,
Yeah, questions
so
about that?
Can I offer a thought?
Absolutely.
One of the things I think that's missing from that is courage. Because when I think of like Sep's story, and sometimes you have to go through some really scary things
Yes.
and make some very tough decisions, and it takes a courageous person to bounce back.
Yes.
When they go through
Absolutely, absolutely. I think courage, and any it does take courage, because you are trying something new. And again, the more important that change is, the more emotionally connected you are to it, invested in it that you are, the much harder it is, right? So,
And I think you have to seek out folks with the characteristics that you don't have.
absolutely, absolutely. And when I do this as a workshop, which is 4 hours versus 1 hour, but I'll put up posters with each of these, and I ask people to go stand at that poster that represents their strength, sign it, and then go stand at the one that's your most challenging, and then see who those names are, and you've got a buddy, right? So it absolutely adds value to do that, right? Because it's, some people they have a hard time getting themselves organized, or how can I be proactive? That's not my nature, right? So helping them to do those things is definitely, it's a good thing to share. So thank you. All right, some other ways that we can help stay in that driver's seat going through change is to focus forward. So if you remember that quote, it said focus on what you're moving towards versus what you're letting go of. Again, easier said than done, depending on the emotional connection. But there's some different ways to do it. So we said all of those things those concerns impacted what's in it for me. and really focusing on, okay, what is in it for me, and trying to identify what are the positive things, what can my wins be? Again, I'm using the positive, but what can I gain out of this? How can I make this work? Previous successes, and that's why, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name, the lady who works at Scan. You said that you know, you were a victim because you'd gone through so many company mergers and acquisitions, or downsizing and losing jobs, right? But you're here, so I say you're a survivor. So you look back at, well, what got me through those changes before, right? What did I do? Who were the colleagues that helped me? What, you know, did I have to go walk every day at lunch for an hour to walk out my frustrations? You know, and a lot of times that physical exercise helps going through times of change, for sure. But what did I do? And what are those things that I did that I can apply to this that will help me get through it? And it also gives you courage, right? It builds your confidence. You know what? I've gone through this. I've gone through this before. I've gone through the worst before. It's not going to be pretty, but I'll get through it. It's not going to be fun, but I'll get through it, right? I mean, no one enjoys going and getting a root canal, right? Or a crown, right? It's not pretty, it's not fun. But on the other side, you're happy that it's done, and that, you know, your teeth are going to stay in your mouth. So, you know, I hate going to work out. All right, I hate it. And I'm my poor trainer, because I say, I'm never happy to see you, but I'm always happy to say goodbye, but I love you. Because leaving, I'm very happy, all right? So I know that I'll get through it. I've done it often, and I'll get through it, yes.
One of the things that resonates with me with one of the past acquisitions that I went through, I worked for the company who acquired another company. So we had a lot of employees from the other company moving in with us at our current site. The leader of our company here in Columbia was not from this country. So there was a little bit of cultural difference
Right.
there. And I don't think that he was a very good change manager to begin with. But it was unfortunate for all the employees that moved in with us because they just were not informed. They did not know who they were reporting to. They had no idea how to submit their timesheet. There was no welcome for them. There was no, you know, little certainty on their desk with the company logo that said,
Right.
welcome, now you're part of us. And the way I dealt with that was I just became a mother hen for them. And I just kind of, you know, rallied all of my little ducks in a row and just tried to comfort them and answer their questions as much as I could and direct them to where they could get answers if I didn't know.
Right. You were focused on the yang. You were focused on the people side of change. Not the fact that they got their timesheets in or that they did this or that, but that you had empathy and you were concerned about their concerns. That's the yang, and that helps people to come along. So, yeah, thank you. The other thing is, this is a great story. Good thing, bad thing, who knows? So there's an old fable about this guy who kept getting either tremendous great luck or things went terribly bad for him. So when it was great, the neighbors would come over and say, oh, congratulations on this great new fortune. And he would respond, good news, bad news, who knows? And if something bad happened, they'd say, oh, I'm so sorry. Is it good news, bad news, who knows? Because how many times does something happen that at first you think it's good news or bad news, but after a while you learn, this really wasn't such a bad thing, right? And so sometimes when we go through change, maybe holding back that judgment a little bit and giving it some time, it may not be so bad. It's not looking real good right now, but we'll see, okay? Good thing, bad thing, who knows? We don't know how this is going to play out. When we let ourselves open to possibilities and think about it's all about possibilities versus it's about this in this box, it's a whole different perspective. Yes?
The other thing is, the part of you that you feed into the most is what you hold on to.
Oh, yeah.
So if you continue to say it's not going to work, it's not going to work, now sometimes it's really not going to work.
Yeah.
But it's still how you are materializing it and processing it over and over and over again. It becomes such a part of you that it becomes ingrained in you.
Yes.
And then you become stuck.
Yes, yes.
And the change is never intentional for you to become stuck.
Right. And it's the law of attraction,
Right.
right? So how do you shift that thought, right? It's hard, it's hard. And as we see people who are getting in that, then how can we help them? From whatever chair we sit in, how can we help them through that? And envision future success. You know, Olympic champions don't envision standing up there with the gold medal. They envision every stroke, every jump, every step of the process. That's what they're envisioning. They're envisioning that success, what it takes to get there and doing it. And so seeing us being successful, seeing us happy again, seeing us with a full heart and finding ways to contribute, that helps as well. We also have to be aware of, you know, what some triggers are that can move us back as we move through the transitions, because as I said, it's not linear. You can be moving through and then something triggers it and you end up moving back. So the more we can get ourselves in that driver's seat at work, at home, wherever that change is, the more positive it feels for you. And that gives us energy versus feeling very depleted takes away energy, right? And, you know, when we know that when we're grieving and something is a big loss to us, we don't have the energy, right? It takes everything we can do to get out of bed. It takes everything, we look at the day, we don't look at 4 months from now. So everything takes more energy. And again, we can't always control what's happened. And also, but what we can control is ourselves. It's not easy. But you can do it. You can do it. To have that courage, to be confident that you've gotten through things before. And this, you know, I used to work with a guy who would always say, this too shall pass. So I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not passing real easy like that. Right? But it will, right? So let's just keep focused on it will. But, you know, one of my mantras, ask my stepson, choices and consequences. We can choose to be a victim, or we can choose to be a survivor, and we're the ones that have to live with ourselves, right? And I don't know about you, but there are some days I get on my nerves, and I just like to get with myself. So I can imagine the impact it is on other people. But what do we choose to do? What do we choose to do? And it is a process, and you're going to slip and slide. But understanding that and giving yourself some space to go through that, it really helps. And thinking about what are those things that I can let go of? You know, what can I try? I can't control all of this, but what are one or two things that I can try and let go of? Can sometimes help you. And then when you put on your leader's hat, it's so important that you understand the process of change and how emotional it is. That it's not just the yin, it's not just what's changing, but that there is a people impact. And when you really think about it, you think about your team and say, okay, what's the impact? Here are all my players. What's the impact? High, low, medium? And then address it and address their concerns. Because everything you say and do sounds and looks bigger. And in times of uncertainty, I don't have the answer, so I'm not saying anything. Well, guess what? People think, oh, there's more coming. There's more happening, and they're just not talking. Sometimes we just have to say, we don't know. But I'll let you know, right? So that gets us into being the leader. And your role is to define what the future should look like, align those people with the vision, and inspire them, not command them, not direct them, but inspire them to make it happen despite obstacles. So John Potter is definitely the guru of change here. And this really resonates with me because I think it really speaks to relationships, because you cannot inspire people if they don't trust you.
That's true.
Right? You cannot inspire people if they don't believe you. Or if you're not positive and you don't believe in what you're doing in the first place. Right? It's hard to get people to come along with you. And this is something you have to work on every day, not just when there's a major change happening. Right? So, what are some change leadership capabilities? To be a really good change leader, some of the skills that I need to have are emotional intelligence. And to me, leadership stops in it. I don't even have to talk about the rest, because this encapsulates so many other things, right? But having that self-awareness, being able to be empathetic, see that people are hurting, understand how somebody is feeling, right? Well, first of all, have self-awareness, then being able to manage yourself, right? And then understanding others and the relationships, being able to build those relationships. And the more skilled you are at that, the more you know yourself, manage yourself, then you can start to see other people. Have big picture thinking. Look at it long term, not just for today, but look at it long term. Think about people strategies as well as business strategies. Influential leadership. Again, it's not about commanding or directing. It's about influencing, gaining their buy-in. How do you gain somebody's buy-in? You have to focus on what's in it for me. So many people I coach will start thinking of their agenda and not thinking of the audience first. So if you start with them and find out what their concerns are, then you can go from there in helping to influence them. Yes.
So what do you do though when you have that resistance to
When you have resistors?
Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes people appear to be resistors because you're not seeing that movement. They're in that neutral zone. All right? They're still figuring it out. So my first thing is I go back to those critical concerns. I want to know what are your concerns? And some of those we may not have any control over. Some of them may not be negotiable. So what else can you do? All right? If someone is just, I don't like it, and I'm not doing it, well, there are choices, right? But if the change is not negotiable, then at some point, I think you have to give people some time to move along, but then at some point you have to say, this isn't a good fit. Because they will derail your train. Right? And then it requires a different conversation. But I don't start there. And I went through an acquisition where very early on, people were saying from the acquiring company, look, you're either on board or you can go get a job somewhere else. Very threatening, right? And then in the next thing, they would talk about how great the employee experience is. I had a different experience. And I had an employee experience, it was just different. But people had to get on board. And eventually it took time again, but the focus wasn't on the people's side. So you have to give that a little bit of time. You have to find some champions who are workmates, colleagues, that can help champion that. What else can you do? Breaking down a resistor.
Make it a little bit fun.
Make it fun. Hello, yeah. If you can, make it fun and get them involved. Get them involved. I was doing some work with a group that were changing their entire sales process, and we had a team of folks who were the senior line people going to figure out what this new process was going to look like. And I said, okay, well, what about Gary, this guy who worked in Florida? They said, oh, you don't want Gary. He's a big pain in the butt, and he'll say no to everything. And I said, oh, yeah, we want him. Because he's either on your team or he's against you. And you know what? Gary had some good ideas. And he brought up some great points in that. Now, was it a little challenging sometimes? Yeah. Did he go out and deliver this, execute this 100%? No. He probably Garyized it a little bit. But you know what? I got 90% out of them versus 50. So get people involved with some things, right? Be authentic is that building trust, saying the truth, being open, being present with people. The next one represents being agile, a little different than resilient, because agile means you're more change ready, and you're always, you're sniffing scurry. You're out there looking through the maze, and what else is coming? What else is happening? What am I going to need to do? That's part of having great change leadership. Being the coach, helping people through this, asking questions, helping to build their skills, helping to build their change readiness and their resiliency. And being a continuous learner, being open to all those possibilities and open to learning new things, right? And effective change leaders devote as much time to the people side of change as they do to getting the business done. And it is not easy. And the bigger the change of the organization, the more complex. You're always in meetings, you have deadlines, you have deliverables, and oh yeah, I have to talk to my people, right? But at the same time, I need them just to be doing what they have to do so we can meet these deadlines. It takes commitment. It takes being deliberate. It's not an either or. That's the thing about leadership. It's the thing about life. It's really not either or. It's and. It's and. Right? What's your strongest skill there out of these that comprise great change leadership? Anybody? What do you think your strongest is?
I think I'm a good coach.
Okay, yeah, and that makes a huge difference. Very people focused. Anybody else?
Big picture thinking.
Big picture thinking, right? It helps us to get out of that little box that we're in and see the whole picture, the long term. Okay. All right. So just quickly, I'm going to go through. This is the process I use when I'm working with customers, and there's a lot of other steps involved in this. But to create that transformational change where we have both the yin and the yang and we're focused on people, create some awareness and understanding. Get people involved. And I'll tell you where, but create awareness and understanding, people need to understand why, and this is 50% of change fails right there because people underestimate the time it takes to get that understanding. It's not sending a memo. It's having the conversation. Ensure two-way communication. Be present. Walk in their world. It's not enough to say I have an open door policy. If you have questions, come see me. Go sit down at their desk. What questions do you have? Right? Lead by example and continuously support and reinforce. It takes over and over and over again. So we only have a couple minutes. I have a real quick exercise if I can do with folks that in your handout, it's called Feed Forward, and this is by Marshall Goldsmith. Is anybody familiar with Marshall Goldsmith's work? Okay, he does this, and it's really powerful. But think about change leadership, going through the change process. What is something that you would like to get better at, do better? Write that down. And so if I would like to be better focused, going through times of change, I'm going to say I'd like to get better at being focused. And then I'm going to go up to you, Cheryl, and I'm going to say I'd like to get better at being focused. And you're going to give me one idea. You're going to say put a list, put a to-do list together. And I'm gonna say thank you. And I'm gonna go, and then she's gonna give me hers. So it's not a discussion, it's not a conversation, it's I wanna get better at letting go. Try and focus forward on what could be something positive ahead of you. Thank you. Go on to the next person. Understand? So it's real quick. And write down the response. Hopefully you'll get 2 or 3 in a couple of minutes that we have. And then we'll come back and that wraps it up. Okay? So go ahead and get up. Go talk to somebody maybe you haven't talked to. One thing you want to improve on, do better, differently, or more of, and they'll give you one idea.
I guess that's the thing is that I don't remember what all they were.
Oh, you need a reflecting point.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
I gotta have better food. I want it, and I get my things. So, but it's bad.
Do you have a team as far as organization? You said them 20. I always want to see that.
Yeah. Say what you're trying Okay, one more minute.
They ain't doing